On this day in 1827 is the day that Joseph Smith took the gold plates out of the Hill Cumorah.
That was the only one of those 4 years where September the 22nd wasn't on the Feast of Trumpets.
In Isaiah 46:10, 9 and 10 actually, he says that I will show you the future by the things that took place in the past.
We do a cruise that's called our Momentum Cruise. Yeah, it's a series of cruises that we do every year. People get kind of the BYU Education Week.
Oh, wow.
With entertainment and speakers. When Christ said, other sheep of this fold, I'm going to go visit.
Yeah.
But I believe all those traditions and things throughout the world because of that scripture.
Yeah.
That he went to all nations.
Does it show that's recording? We're good? It's a little,
Oh, you things were not moving. And so I was like, did it freeze? You guys were just not moving.
Okay, we're just holding still, huh?
yeah, we're real still.
Okay, so I can see
Does it show recording?
it's recording.
Great. All right. And so we have brother and sister Pickering here. Now, I always call you both by your last names, and I asked your name, and I saw it was, well, actually, I saw that your first name is, actually, give me a second here, because it reminds me of when I was a youth, and I just joined the church, and I'd call everybody by their last names, brother and sister.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're going back to when I was 15, and I'm calling you again brother and sister Pickering, like I did all of my examples.
I grew that way for sure.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, I this is Pharrell Pickering and Rhonda Pickering, and you both have your own YouTube channel, and it's called Prophetic Appointments.
Yes.
And you talk about last days prophecies, and you've been doing this for a while, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we also have a Come Follow Me. We've been doing for 4 years, where we're on the 3.5 years, I guess. We're on the last year of the 4 standard work set.
Okay.
The church has done a lot of work. Initially did the Old Testament. That was a lot of fun.
So tell me, what made you start like doing either your research or your YouTube channel, or how'd you guys get involved?
Well, that's kind of a long story, but in essence, my start really mostly was, she taught private seminary for years and years, in private school settings. And she taught religion in even a evangelical church for a little while. Not that we were members directly, but we were part of their private school setup. Anyway, so that has been a history that we did, and we got into that. But I was a working maniac most of my life. I was working 60, 70-hour weeks to take care of a big family. We have 12 children together. And everybody looks at her and says, how that possible? But it's true.
Amazing.
Anyway, and so I was a working guy, mostly. I mean, I loved the gospel my whole life. That part all fit, but I didn't have time to study a lot. Very faithful, though. Attended all my stuff, went to MIA back in those days.
Okay.
All the fun stuff. Anyway, and she come to me and challenged me one day, knowing that I have kind of a mathematical spatial mind, and said to me, she plopped, a Starry Night Pro software program and says, I can't figure out Daniel's numbers. You figure it out.
Really? You prompted all the...
And
I knew he could.
And she says, you can figure this out. And I'm like, Isaac Newton's tried to figure this out. All these people have tried to figure this out. How in the world do you expect me to figure it out?
But we had the key that the numbers were counting between the prophetic appointments from the ancient tabernacle and the ordinances of the temple. in ancient Jerusalem.
Which is kind of where you asked earlier. Where did the title prophetic appointments come from? Oh, that's a question you asked earlier. Well, it came from the idea, and I was sitting as we were discussing what to call ourselves, and I says, well, we're talking about how the Hebrew festivals are God's prophetic appointments with the earth. He came the first time and fulfilled Passover. Well, first of all, the triumphal entry, Passover, and first fruits, which is the first three that we talk about. That was his resurrection day. And this was his crucifixion day.
Yeah.
These were appointments.
These were
made from the
Appointed
foundation.
times.
the appointed times he has set up. And that's what all of them are. They're appointments that Christ has with the earth. And that's when he's going to come on these anniversary rendezvous that he appointed in Leviticus and stuff. The stuff that we go, that's the lost portion of the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, so he literally set these up, not just for some fire drill. He set them up so that we would understand that he will come on these appointed days and fulfill particular missions that he has set aside. Like this is when the two witnesses will be in the streets, and this is when he comes to Jerusalem again, Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
So these are all, and this is the wedding feast.
Amazing.
All symbolically being laid out. And so the name prophetic appointments is actually the holy festivals that he commanded ancient Israel that we go, what was that?
Yeah.
You know, and it's actually him showing us the patterns of his comings and his fulfillment.
So, Rhonda, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and probably for us, the most important one is Pentecost or Shavuot. This is the whole epoch of Christianity, and of which Joseph Smith brought in the fullness of the time of the Gentiles. This is the time of the nations. This is us. And if we want to understand the prophecies about the time of the Gentiles and the restoration, we look to what they were doing in the ancient temple at that time.
So, and now you explain this also on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, that's the first time we did that concise approach to it. But in the process of all of this, when she first got into this, because what inspired her to get into it was when she found out that on the Day of Trumpets in 1827, I'm sorry, I had the first vision in my head for some reason. On this day in 1827 is the day that Joseph Smith took the gold plates out of the Hill Cumorah.
Okay.
And that just sparks curiosity, even in me. I was like, well, then these crazy things mean something. And so what happened there, because that started the journey.
And Moroni told him 4 years in a row, don't take him out. From the beginning, he said in 4 years, she'll take these out. But then not this year, not this year, not this year. Now is the time, take him out. And that was the only one of those 4 years where September the 22nd was on the Feast of Trumpets.
Well, I'm curious, because that seems to be a special time. Like, I remember when I was before Zion Media, I had a Ancient Answers TikTok and YouTube channel. And on that channel, I would go ahead and break down some of what we see at these events. We're at the Wayne May, conference. And at these events, I would just make these short, concise videos. And one of them was about September and between the 20th and 22nd.
Very good.
And I was talking about what had happened in 2020. I think it was 2017, I think it was, where the sign of the Virgin had actually happened in the stars, at least the beginning, or maybe it was the end.
We actually have a video on that.
Yeah.
We've gone into that sign of the heavens.
So my question is, what do you think will happen this September?
Interesting question. I haven't given that a lot of thought directly, other than I think we're in the time of wars and rumors of wars. That's in Matthew 24 verse 15ish. It says, you'll hear wars and rumors of wars, but do not fear, because, and I'm paraphrasing, the end is not yet. So all of these things that are building up to the treaty that this Antichrist is going to make with the earth. And you asked me earlier whether I thought it could possibly be this year. And that's why I do not think it could be this year, is because these things are building to this Antichrist treaty. And we haven't seen that treaty fall into place yet that is scripturally backed in prophecy.
Is it something that everybody will see? Like, because sometimes, really?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're looking for it at a September,
Trump, a rendezvous right
but
there.
not this year. We actually
Actually,
looking in a couple of years.
We're looking at it on the 200th anniversary of
When Joseph took
the Book of Mormon out.
Yeah.
Which, because that's kind of the 200, the tithe of the time of the Gentiles would be in 2,000 years.
And that would be 2027. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I was asking because it's like, I feel like there's things that are happening so fast.
Yes.
As when I got into my ancient answers and was making these videos, one of the things I realized is a lot of the prophecies we see in the Bible have happened before our time, or some of the prophecies, like in Revelation or in Daniel, have happened, but we're just like not aware of it, or we weren't aware of it. So I just was thinking, gee, I wonder if we're going to be aware of some of the upcoming fulfillments.
Never forget that in Isaiah 46:10, 9 and 10 actually, he says that I will show you the future by the things that took place in the past. So he typed and shadowed many things that have happened before, like the case of the Antichrist, played out in the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, if I'm saying that correctly, where he actually came in and desecrated the temple at the time of the Maccabees and the Maccabean revolt. So yeah, those things did happen as a type and a shadow of things that are going to happen. And anybody that studied a lot of Aubrey and Gileadi's work, they know that he shows all of these types and shadows coming forward.
Yeah, it's sure curious. Well, thank you so much for, you've got this timeline, you've already explained this. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, we sat down with Shane recently for lunch, and we spent time at lunch, and we talked about together doing a whole series where we go through Daniel's numbers and understanding the average prophecies. And our goal, the only thing is my time is hindering us from getting ready, but our goal is to create a whole series of lectures where we go through and build all the pieces of understanding Daniel's numbers, how it's coming about, live action. I mean, as we believe, we're right in here in this timetable. And it is all happening. Like you say, things are happening so fast. And it's progressing towards all of these events coming forward. Okay, so in that regard, we're looking forward to being able to do this, where we'll put it up on both our sites. That we ask us, we'll do this series together, and we'll put it up on both of our sites where people can find it and go through the whole history of it all, piece by piece. That's our goal.
All right, any thoughts?
Yes, I wanted to emphasize too that, often we hear, well, you're setting a date. We're not supposed to do that. And there's a lot behind that, the day and the hour that no man knows. We actually have a video on that as well. But what I wanted to emphasize is that these aren't our numbers. These numbers are in scripture, and they were given to Daniel by Gabriel, who specifically told him that in the last days we would understand them. And so it has been a magnificent adventure to get all of the pieces that came together to be able to understand how they actually fit on our calendar and that they don't fit at any other time. And so this is going to be a fun adventure that we have to lay groundwork for so that you can build to the understanding.
And I want to just
together.
maybe read.
Sure. This makes me want to open up the scriptures a lot more. I'm thinking about Daniel and all these prophecies. Want to open up.
I'll have a hard time finding. Maybe I'll just quote it out of my head.
Go ahead.
Okay, Daniel 12, verse 4.
Uh-huh.
He talks about this period of time we're in the end, where knowledge will be increased. And we open up part of our book with that, and I'm not finding it quick because I don't have my glasses and everything. So anyway, that concept of knowledge being increased, we live in the day where we can all go into our kitchen, pull out a phone, and you can access the knowledge of the world. When have we ever seen a time of the world where you could access the information of the world in the palm of your hand, at your laptop, on a screen? You can find out anything that the world knows. Knowledge is increased. We live in that day. We're in the days of Daniel. It's happening live action now. I think a lot of people want to speculate that it can happen really fast, but it is a transition period. And we are going to see this continue to happen until we get to the final point.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, there's a center point here of that Amon Diamond that's a big changing of time. We're going to experience that. But don't get in too big a hurry to think that it's all tomorrow. This is a progressive thing. So it's just going to continue to get more and more interesting in the world as we go. And we're not too far out, but we are still a few years.
And Daniel and Isaiah saw it all.
Well,
They actually encoded it for us if we'll do our due diligence and figure it out.
thank you so much.
Been great.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you guys sitting down with me. And
Yeah.
be sure to go to prophetic appointments on YouTube to be able to learn more about it before you see the series on Zion Media.
Yeah, and it's also, our website is propheticappointments.com
Propheticappointments.com.
and at prophetic appointments for YouTube. So
This episode is brought to you by Oracle Code. I'm not from this planet. Can I make you a song? Yes! I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about you, all your spiritual gifts. I need you to do a temporal and spiritual Oracle Code for Jordan. You're honest, loving, sincere, warm-hearted. She's wired for stability, integrity, purposeful creation. She's a light bringer, a messenger, and a disruptor of old systems. Okay, now we're gonna make your song though. I'm here with Jordan and we wanna make her a song. I want you to make a song as though the Savior Jesus Christ is singing directly to her, letting her know that everything's gonna be okay. Look at this song, I See You, Jordan. That's the name of the song. You ready to hear this song? This is for you.
A pillar child with a shattered heart. Jordan, I see you. I bled for every card they drew. A future queen, a holy son.
Future queen?
Lift your chin, look
Believe
at
it.
the view. Because Jordan, I'm not done with you.
It's church. So to find out how you can get your Oracle Code and your Oracle Code song, click the link in my bio.
I'm here with Brian Mikkelson, who is the founder of Going. You're a co-founder. Okay, how many of there are you?
Well, it's my son-in-law and myself. I've been doing travel since I basically got out of college. Maybe a year and a half after college, I started travel.
Okay, great.
So that was way back in the day when it was like you created a travel agency and you sold airline tickets and cruise tickets, a very traditional type of travel agency. And it kind of was meager beginnings. I started out in the Cottonwood Mall down in Salt Lake City. And then, later on, kind of broke out into LDS type themed travel, group travel, and started selling individuals into groups. That was about 2002. That's when the Nauvoo Temple Open House kind of started.
Really? Amazing.
And for the Nauvoo Temple Open House, there was like a 6-week window. And I think we had about 100 buses.
Oh boy.
It was crazy.
Gee whiz.
So that was a really interesting time in church to have the Nauvoo Temple erected and the dedication of it. It was a big deal.
Amazing. Yeah, it's really interesting because I have gotten into the Heartland. Have you had a booth before at like Rod Meldrum's event or here before?
Well, you know, I've been around since the beginning.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you.
So Rod Meldrum, Wayne May, Bruce Porter, digital legend guy.
That's boy, yeah, all that. Yep. My wife's actually related to him.
Okay.
Through marriage, like her aunts or uncles, like her side of the family has a connection to Boyd. Yeah. So with digital legend, I just thought that was wild when I found that out the first time. Because I mean, I'm this African American guy, you know, all the way from Florida. You might not know much about me. I joined the church when I was in 2000, when I was 15.
Okay.
I had a dream that actually ended up helping me to know that the Book of Mormon was true. And so I got to serve a 2-year mission, and I served in Ohio. I served in Kirtland, and a little bit of my mission. And then I moved out to Utah, and here I am, this, implants of outside of the world, and just kind of enjoying the valley and the bubble or Zion or whatever people call it. And I find out I have a connection to,
Certain people here already.
Yeah,
and
yeah, so
and
great.
doing different things. Yeah. So back in that day, I used to kind of put on events at the South South Valley Expo Center. I don't know what they call it now. It's like a credit union expo center or something. But anyway, so we used to do that, and then Rod Meldrum kind of broke off and started doing events, and
Yeah.
so kind of everybody that was in that group originally is kind of all gone their own way, but we all still do the
Yeah.
Book of Mormon.
Well, and I was just thinking too, just how fascinating it is, because there's a business behind traveling for Latter-day Saints, because we want to see all these places. And so I was just curious if you had,
Well, when you think of the LDS travel, you kind of think of, well, I'm getting two things for one.
yeah,
I'm kind of like, I want to go on vacation. I want to enjoy things. I want to be pampered and taken care of. I gotta explore the world. But it'd be really nice if while I'm there, I'm getting some type of education
yeah.
or spiritual development.
So two thoughts I have, and then I'm going to ask you about just some of your opinions and how things. Well, actually, this is a question of how things have changed, because when I joined the church, I'd hear members talk about doing a church history tour,
Oh,
and they'd drive from Utah and they'd go to all these different sites. Maybe they'd go see some American history sites as well. But they'd, pile up in their rutabaga or their car or station wagon, and
yeah.
and go to these sites, Kirtland being one of them. And I've never done one of those tours. I never had that privilege, but I did get to serve in Kirtland a little bit. But
We saw people come through.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a historic site in Kirtland, and then people would talk about the Sacred Grove, which I hope to go to sometime in my life. That's the one thing I would love to go to and have that experience, because people have these wonderful experiences in the Sacred Grove. But how would you say things have changed? Like, maybe you've done one of those church history tours as a kid. How would you say they've changed from then to now, LDS travel?
Well, you can buy a book or something like that, a Deseret book or something about how to go visit all the church history sites and drive your car and do that kind of independently. But you kind of got to study up, you got to do some research and prepare. You got to take the kids and you got to make it meaningful for everybody in the car. So it's kind of a little more challenging maybe than to have some educator or somebody that's already prepped to feed you all the information and give you the insights. But the missionaries at the sites also do a really good job of supplementing with information, right? So it's a good thing, because while you're traveling on the bus, you're getting all kinds of information, stories, history, when you go on a bus tour.
Yeah.
And everything's kind of taken care of, your hotel, where you're going to eat and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So you just kind of go along for the ride and you just capture all this information and spiritual uplifting stuff. So it might be a little more challenging in a station wagon.
Yeah, well, and with technology, it makes it a little bit easier to do research. And ChatGPT, I think the AI tools that are out there,
Certainly changing.
yeah, brings everything to the fingertips in a way that we've never
Yeah.
realized.
I think with AI and the way things are changing, maybe in the future you'll have robots teaching you all these things.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. Hopefully they're, I don't know.
Maybe there's a good human element with it.
Yeah, or a little bit of life or spirit. Because I think we all want connection, and I think that's why people do the LDS travel, because they want to be in these places.
I think that's one of the things that's really valuable that you bring up, is that the connection happens. Like we do a cruise that's called our Momentum Cruise.
Yeah.
It's a series of cruises that we do every year. But usually it's one really huge one, probably around 800 people or so. It's the amount of people that would fit into the auditorium of a ship.
Okay.
That's how we decide how many people we're going to take,
Okay.
because we don't like to repeat our shows over and over for multiple audiences. So we just take the amount that will fit in the stage. And so people get kind of the BYU Education Week
Oh, wow.
with entertainment and speakers. And they're on this cruise this whole week. They don't have to worry about their food or
Wish I wish
taking care of it.
that would have been great. That's
So
so
it's very popular.
now, this might seem like it's out of topic, but I'm gonna give you a tie-in.
Okay.
Asia. Have you ever done a trip or done a tour to Asia?
I've done a couple, not a lot.
So the reason why I ask, and this is my tie-in, is that I've discovered that the Japanese shrines have a Hebrew connection.
No way.
Yeah, the Japanese know, like historians or researchers, even those that are Japanese, recognize that they have a certain part of their DNA that's different than the other Asian countries.
Interesting.
And so they have this, I don't know if you know much about Japan, but they have this character in their history called a Tengu. And it's got this red mask and a long nose.
Yeah.
And there's priests that will do this pilgrimage.
Oh.
Okay. Very similar to how Hebrews will do a pilgrimage back to Jerusalem. And this Tengu man is like this character or this figure that came to Japan and was kind of a tyrant to the Japanese people. And anyway, the point is the character has wings, as if it's a heavenly figure. It also has a long nose, as if some connection to Jews or something like that, because people think notoriously that Jews have large noses, maybe big ears or something. And then he also has a box on top of his forehead,
those, yeah.
similar to the prayer box that modern Jews have. And when you look at the shrine, the way that's laid out is you go through a gate, like the tabernacle had a gate that you would enter in. And after entering through the gate, the first thing you do is you wash yourself. So you go to wash yourself at the little washing area, and then you might say a prayer, you wash yourself a certain way, and then you go ahead and you, the next step that you do is you do make an offering. But the offering is different for the Japanese shrines. It's an offering of money, but it is a sacrifice. And for Jews and the tabernacle in the Old Testament, of course, we know that they would do sacrifices. And I understand that the Solomon's temple had a basin or something that you would wash yourself in. Well, once you get to the offering, I mean, the Jews had their offering box essentially outside the temple. The Japanese have their offering box inside the first part of the temple. So it's the only visible, I mean, there's maybe one more visible difference, and that is the holy place and the Holy of Holies.
Interesting.
So there, the name for the front part of that the temple is it's actually translates to holy.
Interesting.
And then the second part is it's like it could be translated to be Holy of Holies.
Sure.
But theirs is separated by 2 rooms, and there's a stairs that go up. While the tabernacle or the Solomon's temple is separated just by a veil.
Right.
And so I don't know if he knew that.
I hadn't thought of that, but I can see the parallelism there.
Yeah.
I can also see that, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a non-LDS person that you probably met and visited with, Bruce Porter. But one of the things that there's a history of different types of coronation ceremonies throughout the world. And all of them have a similar pattern. And it goes throughout almost every culture that has a pattern like this.
Yeah.
And so, when Christ said, other sheep of this fold, I'm going to go visit.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll visit all people and I'll visit all nations.
Yeah.
I think after his ascension into heaven.
Yeah.
But I believe all those traditions and things throughout the world because of that scripture.
Yeah.
That he went to all nations. So it wasn't just, the Lamanites and the Nephites.
Yeah.
It was Polynesians, it was the Japanese, it was the Chinese, it was everyone in the world
Yeah.
got that. And it's written, you can find it in their histories and you can find it in their architecture.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's even pyramids in China that look just like the ones down in South America.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just parallelism.
Wow. Yeah. And I appreciate you bringing that up because, I mean, yeah, in China, they have scriptures that talk about Jesus. In Korea, they knew that they marked and mapped the star, they knew that was showing up in the sky. So we're a lot more connected. And that's why I appreciate about LDS travel is that, and not just LDS travel, but just the old world, the new world, there's so many more connections than we realize with each other.
Well, we all come out of the 12 tribes.
Yeah, yeah. Some would say that even the Latter-day Saints here in the valley are the city of Enoch, come from the sky. So
I don't know about that.
I've heard that one actually, because this is the Happy Valley, as some people say.
You've heard the New Jerusalem yet, though?
Yeah. Have you? Did you grow up in Utah? Or
We grew up in northern Utah, close to the Idaho border, Cache Valley.
Got it. Well, one last thing I wanted to ask you about is, we were just kind of laughing about LDS content, and you were saying that you're addicted, and I was agreeing. I'm addicted, wholly addicted, to I mean, because you're about to go on a cruise with the rest of the LDS crew, and I think that's so wonderful what you're doing. In fact, I admire every one of those podcasters and what they're doing. If I could just say a little special message for them, I just appreciate what you're doing because, if it wasn't for you guys, there'd be a lot of people that would have a lot of questions unanswered.
Well, there's a lot of comments that come in. There's a lot of learning that goes on.
Yeah, yeah. And so I just think, I don't, to be frank, I don't think I can say enough about Latter-day Saint content creators. When I joined the church and came in to the church, the thing I realized, I mean, I would always run to the library. After church was done, I'd go to the library and I'd check out whatever tapes I could. I'd watch LDS media. And that's something I wish I got to spend more time with. I've gotten a chance to meet actors. Like I know Michael B. from the Singles Ward. He was like the Latter-day Saint Chris Chris Farley.
Yeah.
At least back in the day, he's a comedian and a lot of fun to be around. We've had Alex Boyer on our channel as well. Incredible artist and incredible talent. And we've been blessed since doing Zion Media. But at the same time, there were just so many things I appreciated. I got to visualize and see what it was like to be with the prophet, even though I hadn't served the mission yet. And then when I served in Kirtland, to imagine what it was like to be there where Joseph had been. So I want to ask you, maybe some of your favorite podcasters.
Mm-hmm. Well, I work a lot with Quick Media with Greg Matz.
Greg, I've met Greg,
and I align very well with Greg, and so I kind of said, okay, Greg, you can just be my official spokesperson. So he does a lot for us.
That's a really fan.
And he's kind of a guy that does a lot of current events.
He does.
So I mean, if you're looking for news things that are coming out, it's kind of a good thing for Quick Media. They do a lot of news that comes out.
I was telling you that I like anticipating Christ's return. I feel like she talks a lot about news related, but in a church standpoint, like church news. There's the Christian Homestead, which I think also talks about it in news.
That's really interesting. I followed him. He's got this spreadsheet and everything.
Oh yeah,
there, and he's got everything. He's done
incredible work.
I don't even know if you can access that spreadsheet.
He does make it available. So in each description, he does make it available, which I appreciate for sure. I've gotten to poke in there a little bit, but there's so much. It's hard to slow down and appreciate.
And there seems to be a little bit of a fervor about, oh well, this is the second coming. This it's close or whatever. And I don't know whether we are or not. We don't really know.
Yeah.
Could be now. Could be 200,000 years from now. Who knows? But it's interesting that every prophet has always told us to get prepared. And so that's one. I think Christian Homestead is kind of that,
Yeah. Boy.
tracking that.
Yeah, and there's a long list. I kind of want to put a list together of all the content creators that are out there, because I feel like I personally would love to give them props. And I love that you're doing this, tour. You're out going out with Jacob and then Greg, and
Those are interesting things, interesting personalities. I've met, the Ward Radio, Cardinellis, I've met him. Also Greg, been on the phone with Jacob Hansen, which I just think that's incredible what he's done.
yeah.
What amount of courage he has.
Yeah. No, well, he's prepared. I asked him one time, like, hey, did you do any training on debates or like getting out there? And he actually hadn't had any professional training. It was just a passion of his.
Yes.
And so he told me about that experience, and I was just like, oh my goodness. So I just celebrate Latter-day Saint Coptic. They replaced the high times of LDS media, because I mean, we don't have a lot of movies.
What's really interesting in LDS media is there really isn't a way to communicate.
Yeah.
And since podcasting came about, this has really created the way for LDS saints and podcasters to communicate.
Yeah.
Prior to that,
Yeah.
you were kind of stuck with, well, who's the guy speaking at BYU Education Week? Because that's really the only content you got.
Yeah.
Or it was just, general conference or...
I'm going to say this is I think we have our best, I think we have our best years ahead of us when it comes to LDS media, content, and just celebrating this wonderful culture that we have as Latter-day Saints.
And a great way to reach each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Brian, for sitting down with me. I hope that we can do something in the future as our media. I think it would be fun to do that. And we would definitely encourage our audience to, participate.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know we're going to only grow with what we have going on too. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.